I'd like to share with you some things that I've learned about canning over the years. Keep in mind that my main concern is safety when it comes to canning. And I'd like to introduce you, if you're not familiar with it, to the U.S. Department of Agriculture's National Center for Home Food Preservation website, my go-to information for anything that I can. Number one is follow recipes from a reliable source. Now, this website that I'm giving you the information on, it has a lot of recipes. And number two is follow the right procedure for whatever it is that you're canning. Certain foods like fruits that are considered high acid foods can be made by using the boiling water bath method. Vegetables, however, are low acid foods, and they have to be canned by using pressure canning, because the boiling water bath does not reach the required temperature for the right length of time in order to make the food safe. When canning, don't use an instant pot or a pressure cooker. It must be a pressure canner that's used. Don't use a microwave for canning. That process, it could possibly be safe, but there hasn't been enough testing done on it. There's no assurance that your foods will be safely canned if you use a microwave. If you live in an area where the elevation is above 1,000 feet, then there have to be certain adjustments made in the canning process. It's primarily the length of time that the foods are cooked in order to be safe. When you're pressure canning, be sure and follow the manufacturer's instructions for use of that particular model, because they're all a little bit different. The basics are the same, but each of the pressure canners are a little bit different. It's very important to store your home canned goods properly. The same with any canned foods. It can be foods that you buy at the grocery or home canned, but they should be stored in a cool, dry area away from any heat or light source. So a pantry, a basement, any area that doesn't have extremes in temperature. Don't eat canned foods that are too old. Most recommendations are that home canned goods are good for a year, but they actually last much longer than that. But I wouldn't recommend eating any, and it depends on what it is also, but I've eaten green beans and pickles that are 5 years old. I've eaten jelly and jam that's 5 years old. Now they may get the jellies and jams may have a little discoloration over the years, but the taste and the quality are still good. But it depends on whether or not they've been properly processed and properly stored. So there are a lot of variables. Be sure and label your canned food with the date so that you can use the oldest first, and so you won't have them hanging around so long that you'll be concerned about using them. If there's any question in your mind, don't eat the canned food. It's good to have a regular schedule, once a month or maybe even once every quarter, once every 6 months, but occasionally you should check your pantry and make sure that the foods are all still good, that the seals are intact and there's no sign of spoilage. Yes, the primary signs of spoilage are if the lids have come unsealed, if there's any leakage from around the sides of the lids, or if there's a bulge in the lids, then just discard those foods immediately. You can reuse your jars, but I'd get rid of the food right away. And do not taste them. Follow canning recipes exactly without making adjustments to those recipes. Keep in mind that there are certain foods that cannot safely be home canned. Anything with dairy, anything that's dense like peanut butter or pumpkin or sweet potato pulp cannot be safely canned, because there's no way to test to be sure that the right temperature for the necessary length of time can be sustained all the way through the food that's being canned. In order for the food to be safe, it has to, everything, the jar, the liquid that's in the jar, and all the food has to reach a certain temperature for a certain length of time to get rid of the bacteria that causes botulism. So at this time, they do not have a way of testing to be sure that those dense foods are safe. So they're recommending that they not be home canned. Now, foods like sweet potato and pumpkin can be canned in chunks, and then you mash them later, and they can safely be canned. So I highly recommend that if you're not familiar with the National Center for Home Food Preservation website, that you take a look at it. They have all the information that you need for canning and a lot of recipes as well. So I hope you'll check them out, because we're all interested in providing safe and healthy food for ourselves and our families. Thanks for stopping by.